Hello, everybody. Professional sports has been around for a long period of time, and people have been known to try and cheat and get ahead of the game by taking steroids, for example. But today we're going to be talking about professional baseball players who have taken performance-enhancing drugs and why they should not be admitted into the Hall of Fame. So professional baseball players should not be admitted into the Hall of Fame because they cheated and used drugs to help them be better than what they were. Today we're going to be talking, you're going to be gaining a little bit of knowledge on PEDs, shortened for performance enhancing drugs. And then we'll talk about them, why they're illegal, and then transition into why players who have used PEDs should not be allowed into the Hall of Fame. And then lastly, talking about a couple players who have used PEDs but should still be in the Hall of Fame. So, first off, PEDs are an illegal substance and are banned from professional athletes for using them. According to Forbes, the primary reason why performance-enhancing drugs, or PEDs, are outlawed in professional sports is that they give users an unfair advantage over the rest of the field. PEDs are looked down upon because it creates such an unfair playing advantage, such as being able to hit the ball harder or being able to throw the ball harder. There are negative risks involved when using drugs or steroids. And according to a Penn State article, the athletes are only seeing the short-term advantages that it has for them, but not the long-term effects that could include irritability, depression, and suicidal thoughts. And with a lot of abuse comes the liver, kidney, and heart failure. Now that we have discussed why PEDs are harmful and illegal, I'm going to be discussing why they should not be in the Hall of Fame. So players who have used should not be allowed into the Hall of Fame. When you get caught cheating, you should not be getting rewarded for it. Although you might have a heck of a career, you should not be allowed in the Hall of Fame if you're caught cheating. There's a website called The Sportsters that created a list of 15 players who have been caught or have gave themselves up for using said drugs or steroids. This list includes Barry Bonds, Alex Rodriguez, Sammy Sosa, Roger Clemens, Mark McGwire, Manny Ramirez, Ivan Rodriguez or Pudge, Jose Canseco, Jason Giambi. Those are some big name players if you're in the sports world, in the baseball world. All these players had Hall of Fame careers, but will not make it more than likely because of using it. Legalizing these drugs would make these players get into the Hall of Fame, but allowing drugs into the sports world would ultimately take away from the purpose of playing and watching sports, according to the Sports and Drugs website for pros and cons. Finally, some players should be in the Hall of Fame even though they use PEDs. So Barry Bonds, for example, is a perfect example. Before he even took a dose of steroids, he had recorded a .290 average with 411 home runs, and he was more than exceptional at that point in his career. He was on trajectory to become one of the greatest and was getting the numbers, and people were even afraid to pitch to him. He had a bases-loaded walk. But that was all according to Glamour Fame on Barry Bonds' career before and after using. He finished his career with 762 home runs, a .298 batting average, so those numbers continued to rise, even the average. 1,996 RBIs, 2,935 total hits, and those are all legendary numbers if you talk to anybody who is associated with the MLB. Another player that probably should have been admitted in the Hall of Fame before he was accused of, or before he came clean with using, would be Ivan Rodriguez, or Pudge. He was an exceptional catcher. He had 13 gold gloves as a catcher, which is the most all-time in that position. Another player, Roger Clemens, he will not make the Hall of Fame because of using. He was a pitcher and retired with a record of 354 wins, 184 losses, 7 Cy Young Awards, a 3.12 ERA, and over 4,500 strikeouts, playing from 1984 to 2007. So in conclusion, although some players who have used PEDs have had better careers than others, no one should be allowed in the Hall of Fame if they were caught cheating. There have been many players over the years to admit to using PEDs or performance-enhancing drugs, and their chances of making it in the Hall of Fame are slim to none. And lastly, if you were a professional athlete, would you risk it all to use PEDs to improve your game, even though you're already really good? Thank you.